Here are the benefits, essentially, of ISIS, why to do this. We're trying to give people, as I said, this roadmap to the whole action cycle. We believe, and we've seen this many times, that the methodology and the tools that go with it can be integrated to lots of other processes. Certainly the ones that Marsha is talking about can be very useful there. People who are familiar with natural step, we've done a lot of integrated work with that method. Triple bottom line, et cetera, et cetera. And what's different here is that we're trying to use some techniques and tools that essentially are kind of acupuncture or finding levers in the system to really accelerate and focus your efforts so that you can be more assured that your work is actually going to be hitting the sweet spot and delivering the kind of results that you want. And we'll get into some tricky bits about that in the second half of this. We sum up that method. And the method, by the way, is just a method. I mean, anybody can follow that sequence. And then we support that method with our set of tools, compass, pyramid, amoeba, and stratosphere, which I'll say a bit about each one now. We package that up as something we call accelerator, basically trying to take a lesson from Apple and Microsoft and everybody else that packages up tools and little icons. But here's what we're doing. We're using Compass to work on orientation of our stakeholders, indicators, assessment. Pyramid is a training tool. Amoeba is also a training tool, but it's a planning tool for change work. And the stratosphere is a fairly traditional with some bells and whistles strategic planning tool for the reasons I alluded to earlier. And let me show you just briefly what each one of those does, and you'll be able to get these slides, of course, later. Compass is built on this, we think, fairly simple, intuitive way of framing sustainability. North, east, south, and west become nature, economy, society, and well-being. And you can use that to then gather people in a stakeholder kind of fashion. But you can also use it to develop indicators, about which more later. But here you're looking at one of our indicator reports where we've worked with organizations, companies, as well as cities to develop indices of their overall sustainability performance. Pyramid, one of my favorites in my own little piece of work here, because it's such a fun process as well as being very useful, where people work during the course of a 1 or 2 day period all the way through that process of indicator systems innovation and strategy and achieve an agreement to move forward that is very robust. The picture at the bottom is a lot of senior officials in the northern European area around the Baltic Sea toasting their successful achievement of a new strategic set of guidelines to go to the prime ministers, for example. Amoeba, those of you who are familiar with my earlier books, Believing Cassandra will have seen this, and the ISIS agreement has what you might call, Amoeba 2.0, and a lot of new information about how to use this tool, especially for thinking through the power dynamics in change processes. Not just thinking about the thing that you're trying to change, but the people that you're working with and what your relationship is to them and how to manage that in an effective way for change. This is for me anyway, iconic image of how we think about organizations anyway. The amoeba of cultural change. This is almost a 20-year-old image at this point, but it translates a lot of very interesting theory on innovation by Everett Rogers and others into a fun and useful tool that you can use, and I'll show you how to use it in the second half of this broadcast. Stratosphere, again, some people need a lot of help just writing a basic, traditional, and fairly detailed strategic plan with targets and metrics and a clear theory of change, for example. I find a lot of people needing help there to understand how they're going to make the change that they're working on. Logic model is another way of talking about that. But also how to map the terrain they're moving into with their sustainability idea internally in a company, for example. Who's already doing this? What's our competition doing? Do we have the skills, the capacities? And so that this is very important so that people don't fail and then blame sustainability for failing as opposed to blaming the ordinary reasons that people might fail, and that they can reorganize themselves to succeed so that they don't fail. That's the really critical thing there, and track their progress and feed it back into their process. So that's the ISIS accelerator, built on the ISIS method. We're using it all over the world now, and I'll tell you a bit more in the second half of this about how we're using it and what the sort of what things that you need to think about in using it are, where it can go wrong. I think it's important to see that as well.